Hey everybody, very good evening. It's Captain Abs here with you once again, and bringing you another live stream now of Microsoft Flight Simulator. Having a little bit more fun with this sim, learning it, enjoying it. It's quite a lot of fun. The scenery is just spectacular. It's above and beyond anything I've ever seen before in a sim, and it really is just so impressive and so engrossing to fly through this world. So I thought I would give you guys another live stream here, a little bit more fun that I've had recently. Me and some friends got together and decided to do this bush trip here. So for those of you that don't know, within Microsoft Flight Simulator there are some pre-scripted activities, if you will. One of them is this bush trip, basically up and down the Nevada interior, and visiting some very small little strips everywhere. So this is actually a lot of fun. You can do it multiplayer too, and that was the great thing. We went out and we did it as a group. Three of us took these Zlin Aviation Savage Cubs, and we were just bombing through formation flying. And the biggest challenge of this is trying to find these little airports. So here is one of the legs. This is the second leg of the bush tour here, and you're going from a place called Inyokern here. So this is the overall tour, but over here in the corner from Inyokern, which is kind of a decent-sized airport, to Olancha Strip Airport. It's a tiny little strip. This is the airport right here. It's a tiny little dirt strip by the side of the road. It's not marked on charts. It's a privately owned strip, and part of the challenge of this bush flying is just finding your destination airport, and that proved to be quite a bit of a challenge. Between the three of us, we managed to find the places we were getting to, but it was not an easy thing, and it was actually kind of a lot of fun. So I encourage you guys to give this a try, and if you can, find some people, some like-minded people to get along and give it a try with, because these bush adventures are actually a lot of fun, and the more the merrier. So without further ado, we're going to get started, and we're just going to do this. It's about 37 miles. It's not a particularly long leg. It's not a particularly fast airplane either, flying around in a Cub. Takes us about 24 minutes. But yeah, let's give this a little try here. So we hit restart from, and one of the great things about this is that it saves when you were, here's the whole tour by the way, starts here. It's 24 hours of flying in that Cub to get all the way around it. I think we're about here so far. We went from here through here, and we're up to here, and then we got lots more legs to go, but it's going to be lots of fun. But one of the challenges of this bush flying is actually finding the airports you're looking for, because they're not marked on the charts, because they're often not, and because you don't have a GPS database in a Zlin Piper Cub. All you're doing is you're just literally flying by looking out the window. So here we are at, I have to push the ready to fly button, and then we can have a look here. So here we are at Inyokern Airport, which is it's not a particularly big airport, but it's got a couple of paved runways, so it's a little bit of a bigger airport in our little Piper Cub. And one of the neat things is that wherever you park and finish the previous leg, the sim remembers and will restart you in the exact same place when you're ready to do the next leg, which is kind of a nice little carry-on thing, so it does feel like you're continuing the same journey over and over again. So there's a little VFR map here, and you can cheat and get yourself back on track. We're going to close that up. We don't need that. What you will want to use, and what makes this entertaining, is the navlog. And the navlog actually provides a verbal description of how to get to where you're going and what you're looking for. So depart from Inyokern Airport, begin the second leg of your bush trip adventure, heading northwest along Route 395. The long asphalt ribbon bends ever so slightly north, leading you to pass flanked by sloping hillsides, eventually toward the aptly named Little Lake. As you continue along 395, you'll soar over volcanic fields and chasms of sculpted black lava towards the highway reservoirs, bifurcated bodies of water on the east side of the road. At the far end of the upper reservoir, follow the Los Angeles aqueduct as it carries water north through the park's landscape, where the waterway runs parallel to Highway 395. In the pathway between them, you'll find an unassuming dirt runway. This is your next landing spot, the Olancha Strip, and it even gives you a little picture of what you're looking for, but you know, you're not looking at it straight up, you're kind of flying along to find it, so it's not the easiest thing in the world to find. I found it quite entertaining. This was a very entertaining little trip here. So I don't know if there's a windsock here or what the deal is here. I think the winds everywhere on this are pre-programmed to be out of the south. The time of day and the weather, I think, is pre-programmed for these bush trips, so that's okay. Because this is really, it's a day VFR aircraft only, so you really kind of want to have that. So let's get this show on the road. Let's give her a little bit of gas here. And let's get this Cub going here. And it's almost easier to taxi the Cub in the external view, just because it's don't want to hit that taxi light that's in the middle of the taxiway for some reason, because the forward visibility, of course, being a tail dragger, is pretty poor. even if you stick your nose way up here, you really still can't see too far ahead. You have to kind of look out, and you can even drag yourself out the window and look that way if you really wanted to. But it's kind of a lot of fun to fly this thing. I really kind of enjoyed it. Alright, let's do flaps to takeoff. If you want to make it a little bit more realistic, what you can also do, of course, in another window or perhaps on a tablet is bring up some kind of a VFR chart like SkyVector, flightplan.com, or something that has a VFR chart. You can bring that up, and then you're able to, I guess we can taxi a little faster, and you're able to fly and navigate just by using the charts. And that's what we did, and that helped a little bit in terms of making sure we were following the right roads, seeing where the lakes were, giving us a little bit of a sense of where we were as we were trying to find this. You could literally just time it, though, in the nav log. Use the timing, use the distance, and the landmarks described in the nav log. I found that using SkyVector helped a little bit. Just made it just a little bit easier to deal with in terms of just being aware of where we were going. You don't have a lot of fuel in the tanks here. Fuel gauges are right here. You got about a half a tank. Each time you stop the airplane, they refill it for you to about a half a tank. So it's not a whole lot of extra airplane, but it's also Cub. It doesn't exactly burn a whole lot of fuel to begin with. But I thought these were great fun. We did just a couple legs so far, but I can't wait to do the rest of the tour. It's a great way to see some scenery, some parts of North America I've never seen before, and especially up close and personal in a Cub. Nothing beats a Cub when you really just want to go sightseeing, because it's a low and slow type of aircraft. I mean, this kind of thing is best flown just 1,000 or 2,000 feet above the ground, where you can just see. We had a little issue because we did come through the mountain pass over there on the left, so we did have to climb up to get through on our first leg, but still, this is the way to see North America and see it, like I said, up close and personal, is in a Cub, down low, down slow, enjoying all the sights along the way. You don't even need ADC on this, although I can't wait to start flying on VATSIM soon. As soon as as soon as SimConnect is fixed, which apparently is coming in the first update, which should be dropping any day now. They said sometime in the next week. They said that a couple days ago, so every time I load the sim, I'm hoping that there's an update to load, but so far has not seemed to have loaded yet. Runway 20, I don't see any traffic out there. Get my strobe light and my landing light on. We're going to take runway 20 here today for departure. Does not take much to get this Cub rolling, that's for sure. Or off the ground. There's 80, there's 90, there's 100 miles an hour already. Oh, kilometers an hour, sorry. Doesn't take much to get this airplane rolling and in the air. Overspeeding the flaps already. There we go. Flaps are up. Alright, so we have to turn around and head north. Follow the highway north was what the description said. Highway 395, which is just west of the airport here. Just a long, straight strip of asphalt that goes just up the valley. Yes, thank you. I don't need to know that. Sometimes this thing can be a little bit annoying because it keeps popping pieces of information in front of you that you don't really always need. And I wish that we could do more to reduce or eliminate those stupid tooltips sometimes. And the font on these tooltips sometimes is a bit ridiculous too. Very much meant for an Xbox controller, unfortunately. Alright, so I'm going to level off here at 35. Get the power way back here because we don't need to be going that fast, but even 150. Yes, I don't care. Go away. Alright, so, US 395, I believe, is this highway. Yeah, it's this highway right here that just goes up and down this valley. So we're basically heading, not quite north yet, heading 330-ish on the compass right there. Level at 3,500. And we just basically track this north, as it said in the description. So you follow the highway up north, through the low pass, past the lake, past a couple of reservoirs, and then you look for your destination. But that really is the challenge, is trying to find these places truly and totally VFR. You'll see there's no GPS, there's no nav radios of any kind in here. We have comm radios, we have a transponder just so we can get to a couple of airports. You know, we can get in and out of we can get in and out of the, Class C, Class B airports, but that's it. We don't have any kind of navigational aid in the Cub. The only navigational aid we have is windows all around. Look out the window, see where you are. And that's the beauty of this bush tour, I think, so far. I mean, you're enjoying the scenery because you're just let down low and slow right over it to begin with. But then the other thing that really adds to it is just the fact that the airports you're trying to find, you don't even know where they are. You have to get pretty close to them and follow the instructions pretty carefully to find them, and that was really part of the joy of it. It was just discovering these, because they specifically went out of the way for the most part to pick airports that, still getting into the yellow here, they went out of the way to pick airports that are not marked on most maps. So either private strips that are in the sim, and because it's satellite data, even every private strip is in the sim. It's just as part of satellite data. Look around and you'll start to see, runways everywhere that you look. Farmers who just, flatten down a little bit of land in one field, 20 feet wide, 50 feet wide, and make themselves a couple thousand feet long, and make themselves a little strip for their own airplane. You'll find these farm field airstrips everywhere you go. And that's what these bush tours involve a lot of. A lot of it is not marked licensed airports. It's little tiny farm strips. Another leg further along here, it's an abandoned airfield, so it's in the scenery. It's got X's across it, but you can go and land at it. It doesn't do you any harm. The nice thing is that you're not breaking any laws when you're in the sim doing this stuff. But also just great fun while you're flying along with your buddies and seeing who can spot the airport first, who can be the first to land at the airport and watch the other guys land. So if you get a chance, guys, I encourage you to try these missions. They're just a lot of fun. They're very short. We did 3 legs in the first evening we tried this. We got 3 legs done in about 90 minutes, 2 hours. So they're all very short legs to begin with. You can get a couple of different legs done every night, and then it's just a great way to explore some new areas in the sim. So you can explore different, this one goes to Nevada. There's one that's, I believe, in one of the Balkan states, and then I think there's another one in South America somewhere. There's 3 of them, and I hope that they'll look at putting together more of them, because somebody did a fair bit of research into the description of the VFR route. But it's very well done, because the places that they found do exist in the sim, but you gotta look, and you gotta look carefully. You won't find them unless you're really looking for them. And this one is a perfect example. When we get to our destination, you'll see that it doesn't really exist that well until you really see it in the sim. Until you really just trip right over it. So there's the highway right there, US 395, and it just continues to curl along and along. Basically, if we just follow this highway all the way, we will get to our destination. So over there west is California. That's west. We're heading north, so that's west over there. On the other side of those mountains is California. I believe, where are we in California still? I believe we're on the Nevada side of the border here now. But see, now my geography is not that great in this part of the world, so I'm going to actually double check and just see if it's marked on the maps. I'm not even sure if it's marked on the maps. Let's see here. Where am I looking? I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure that we are on the Nevada side right now. I may have to actually I'm just Googling it here on my other screen just to see if I actually, in fact, am right. And actually, no, I'm wrong. We are in California still. As we go further north, we've actually transitioned. So yeah, we're in California. We're in the interior of California. It's actually Death Valley over there, up ahead into the east, just over that ridge, I believe, is Death Valley. So we are still in California. It's my mistake. We are in California, but over to the west, beyond there, is the California Central Valley, and eventually the Pacific Ocean behind it. You can see beautifully rendered fields here. And I mean, it's amazing the interesting stuff that you'll notice here. I even noticed this last time while we were here. There's this one long straight dirt line here that actually goes, and you'll see it kind of curves along. And what I realized as we kind of got to the highway and I saw how it curved is that actually this is an abandoned rail line. Once upon a time, a rail line ran along here. They pulled it up a long time ago, but it still leaves a scar across the landscape, a very nice long straight line across the landscape. And this is just the level of realism that you're dealing with in this simulator. It's not perfect. I don't know what people were expecting, honestly. I don't know, I've seen so many complaints. Oh, you know, there's glitches here and there. The data's not perfect. When you get up close, the buildings are not accurate. It's a model of the whole bloody world. And to do it at this level of detail, like the amount of information that's already contained in the sim, you know, you can't expect perfection. You can't expect absolutely every last, you know, brick on your own home to be modeled in this simulator. It's just not feasible. The amount of information that we require to describe the entire world in that level of detail, just probably there's not enough storage space out there yet built to contain all that information. But as far as a very realistic approximation of the Earth, that from 1,000 or 2,000 feet as you're flying by, it looks pretty darn good. You can see individual roadways down these people's properties. You can see individual buildings as you're going by. It's not perfect. It's procedurally generated. Sometimes you'll find buildings that are not correct, that are not the correct shape, that's not the correct size. You'll find something that is not a building that generates a building, or you'll find trees that are not quite right. It's not going to be perfect. But for the amount of information, the volume of information, and the level of detail that is here, this is a revolution in simulation. It's not perfect. I don't think anyone's claiming it was perfect. But just looking at how far they've come, even from the original flight simulator, even from P3D, you never saw a landscape like this in P3D anywhere. And this is just the same level of detail scenery that exists almost everywhere. Yeah, certain things don't look that good. When you get a little closer, you realize that the cars driving down the highway are pretty blocky, but from 1,000 feet up even, they start to look pretty good. There's the lava fields that were being described in the route description there. So we're passing the lava fields there. Get through this pass, and then we'll find Little Lake, and then we'll find the reservoirs. I'm overall extremely impressed with this sim. It's not perfect. It has its issues already. It has its teething issues. And the scenery's not perfect. But it's just flying down here low and slow in the Cub feels so much better than it ever did before. Although I think cars on the interstate down there are outpacing us. Well, maybe we're slightly gaining on them. You know, I guess we're only doing 150 kilometers an hour. That's still about 100 miles an hour, and yet still the cars on the interstate seem to be almost outpacing us. They might be going at a slightly unrealistic speed. But the other thing that I keep complimenting this world on, because of the fact that it's all generated from satellite data, is that the tones are so well matched overall. And you'll see this when we get to our destination. You will not notice the airport. You will not notice the airport until we're almost on top of it, because it just blends so well with the scenery. The runway is the same color as all the rest of the dirt around here. It's just a dirt runway, and it's the same color as all the rest of the dirt around here. The airports don't stand out at all, which is something that you saw a lot in P3D. The airports tend to stand out. They tend to be kind of like a dark green background of grass, and then with a gray runway on in the middle of it or something. You know, you could see them usually from a bit of far away, because it was kind of a break in the continuity of the scenery. You know, you'd have all this autogen trees, and suddenly you'd have a break in the autogen trees and just this green polygon. So, but now, because it's generated from satellite data, the runways out there, they don't stand out. The tones just blend right in with the rest of the landscape. So you really have to be looking carefully, and oftentimes you'll just almost fall right over the airport before you'll notice it. See, and there's where the rail line, if I just bend down there, there's where that rail line crosses the highway there, or what used to be the rail line crosses where the highway is now, probably before the highway even existed. See little dirt trails down there. I don't know, maybe recreational trails by the looks of it, or maybe they're just off-road backcountry trails people enjoyed. rendition of the world is not perfect, but considering the amount of data in here, I'm always very impressed by how good a job it does of capturing reality in general. Not perfect, but overall not too bad. Now, if I remember this last time, we had to get basically past that little hill and then past the next mountain pass behind it, and that's where our destination is. So we got a good another 20 minutes still of flying here in front of us. And I don't know why my sim is hesitating so much all of a sudden. I don't have anything running in Sim Connect. I don't know why it keeps hesitating on us there. Car is not quite driving down the highway, but that's okay. Driving on the shoulder. See, and you get a little close and you sort of have to suspend your realism a little bit there. One thing I'm noticing is it's stuttering a lot more than it ever did before. I may have to play with some of my settings again. But for those of you that are into this sim, it really is amazing to me how quickly it's come into its own. People are really enjoying it. One thing I've noticed is that the FSEconomy servers have almost died. I've become very slow and laggy in certain cases, and I think that's mostly due to the number of people trying to use the system now that this new sim is here, and it really is lends itself to VFR flying right now. It lends itself to flying smaller GA aircraft that are perhaps not as complex as airliners, because as I experienced last time with my Airbus video, the airliner's not very good yet, but this one looks pretty good. This one works pretty well. It's a very basic airplane, so there's not much here to screw up, to be honest. So this right here is Little Lake, aptly named. It's a pretty small little lake that the highway just cuts across. There's actually a little tiny town here, which I think we're going to fly right over. Yeah, there's about 6 or 8 houses here, and that's pretty much the town of Little Lake. We keep going past this next little hill here. Next little mini volcano here. And one thing I did realize as well as we're going here, and it's very subtle, but the terrain is slowly rising as we head north, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to hit some power here and climb up about another 1,000 feet, just to make sure we don't end up just cruising along the tops of the vehicles on the highway there. One thing I'll say about this Cub, though, she does have a lot of power. Definitely have to bring her back just to keep her from overspeeding in cruise. Makes for some really good short field performance. You won't have any trouble squeezing in and out of any of these fields that are on this tour here. Okay, there's 4,000. Let's keep going up to 45, because as you can see, as we follow this highway up north, it goes through that mountain pass up ahead right at our 12 o'clock. So we want to get up to at least 45 to make sure we get through there without hitting the ground. Again, you can have your sky vector charts up, and when I first did this, I had the sky vector charts up. I was using it to follow the landmarks. I found that village there. I saw the lake, saw the hills here marked on the sky vector charts, and I followed this road. You could see every curve in the road, and had a pretty good sense of where we were and where we were going once I was using the sky vector charts. So I do like these missions, and you can really truly use the VFR charts and follow the landmarks. The land is detailed enough that the VFR charts are very useful now. I find sometimes in P3D, the VFR charts were useful for following the roads, and that was about it. Most of the other stuff was kind of hit or miss. Even with Global Vector, Open Land Class North America, I found that still the VFR charts, it was kind of hit or miss to try and keep, let's get the power back a little bit there, to fly anything VFR. But with this sim, you can, in this case it's pretty easy. We're just following this road, but every landmark is there. That hill, that's clearly in sky vector, and I'm going to pull up in sky vector just to show you guys, because as I said, it was I was quite impressed with it before. Don't go down, don't go down, don't go down. Trim it a little better. There we go. But yeah, so we had sky vector open as we were doing this, and we started out here at Inyokern. Where is it? Here it is, Inyokern, right there. So we followed US 395, followed past the lava field. Little Lake was right about here. That's Little Lake right there, and you got the little higher terrain here. This couple of more dry lake beds over here on the right, you can see, and you can see those on the sky vector chart as well. So there's your dry lake beds. You'll see coming up there's a road that branches off to the right, goes up that hill, and then as we come up over this next pass, you'll see South Reservoir, North Reservoir, and then just north of the North Reservoir, here's the aqueduct. Somewhere along the aqueduct here is going to be our next destination. Still losing altitude, so let's get back to focusing on actually flying instead of staring at the map. But because everything is so well detailed in the sim, you can really realistically follow along on the map on any VFR chart. Pick any VFR chart you like, whether it be flightplan.com, SkyVector, or whatever, and you'll be able to follow along very closely, see the landmarks go by, and keep very precise track of where you are. I don't think any sim before this has been quite as good a VFR sim as this one, because you can just follow everything. It's not perfect yet. I'm getting all these micro stutters now that I was not getting before. Getting a little frustrated with that. But as a real world pilot, I gotta say that the sensation of flight for something coming off a computer screen is pretty realistic. Short of moving my chair here, this is about as good. You know, if you were to get into a full motion sim with this level of detail, you would buy it. You would believe you're there. So here's the road right there that branches off, and it goes up those hills to some building somewhere, probably in some old abandoned mine or something up there in the mountains. We want to keep going straight ahead. We're going to come over this next valley, and then you're going to see the reservoirs open up. And if you haven't already fast forwarded to it, I encourage you to certainly look before we actually spot the field. As we come over the first and second reservoir, fast forward a little bit if you like, but stop before you get to the end of the second reservoir and see if you can spot the field before I do. I know what I'm looking for now because I went there already once. We did this like once already, but I wanted to show it off because it's just a lot of fun. And it's a challenge to find these airports, and that really just adds a whole nother dimension to this sim. I'm really enjoying the sim just for the challenge. You don't even have too much information. I don't believe they give you much information about this airport. I don't think they give you nope. They don't give you anything about like the elevation of the airport. You've got to judge it all for yourself. What's an appropriate circuit altitude? You've got to judge that all for yourself. So still tracking US 395 up here, and US 395 is going to take us right to that strip if we just keep following it, but you have to follow the landmarks to know when you're on top of it. One thing one thing that does disappoint me a bit about this sim is the fact that there's not as much animation in these aircraft as there should be. Specifically, doors and windows don't open, especially in a Cub. Cruising with the window open in the Cub is just good aviating. Yeah, this one's a little bit faster than most, but most Cubs are pretty slow aircraft. You can cruise with the window open. It's nothing worse than putting your window down as you're cruising down the highway in the car. It's just nice to get the fresh breeze, remind you of what you're doing. The fact that the doors and windows don't open in the sim, it disappoints me a little bit. It's gimmicky sometimes, but sometimes it's not. You know, if you were in this airplane, you would probably pop this window open all the time. Alright, so as we're coming around this next kind of mountain pass here, you'll see up ahead, you'll see a dam, and there's the first reservoir. That's I believe that's the lower reservoir. And then, where's that, the upper reservoir? Let's check the nav log. The high-wee reservoirs, doesn't say which is which. One is the upper, one is the lower. I think the first one is actually the upper. So, although the water would normally flow to the south through this valley, they dammed this valley here, created these reservoirs, and this actually feeds the Los Angeles aqueduct. So this actually feeds water to some of the residents of Los Angeles. But instead of flowing south, the water flows out of this reservoir. They built a big dam here and basically reversed the flow of this river, so then it now flows north to the second reservoir and then continues on the aqueduct, eventually over this mountain range. And back into the valleys to get back to Los Angeles. It's 100, I think we're at least 100 miles away from Los Angeles even right here, and it goes the wrong direction, goes north to find a lower spot in the mountains to get over. It's quite a phenomenal piece of engineering when you start to look at these aqueducts and how far away Los Angeles had to go to source water. So there's US 395. Here's the reservoirs over here. With the dam that blocks off almost all the water flow, so hence it's a pretty dry valley south of here now. You got all these dried lakes there because no water flows really south from here anymore. It's all captured in these reservoirs. And then it's rerouted back to the north. So we have the south reservoir. As we pass the north reservoir up ahead, we have to look for the outlet, the LA aqueduct, which is basically just a big open canal, and follow that, and you'll find our destination. But just a big part of this is just finding it. It's just getting to that destination. That's part of the fun of this whole endeavor. So that right there is the aqueduct there. So just coming back along the side of the canal, or along the side of the reservoir, is the actual canal. So the water exits and then flows back north into the second reservoir, and then back out again and continues north. I don't think we're even 1,000 feet AGL anymore as we cruise along here, but we're going to be landing soon, so it's not that big a deal. I could go up another 500 or 1,000 feet. Maybe I will, just to make it a little bit easier for you guys to try and spot that destination. But bring it up to 5,000 RPM. That'll get us some climb going here. Get us an extra 1,000 feet and see if we can spot that next airport. I think we'll just level off at 5,000 because we don't have far to go. And then we can pull the nose back down a little bit. You can have a look out over the nose. So there's the first reservoir. It ends there. And then the aqueduct routes everything back into the second reservoir here, the north reservoir. And then at the far end of the north reservoir, you find the aqueduct exits again and heads north on its slow roundabout route to Los Angeles. There, get a little bit better view up here now. One of the joys of flying too, though, is just being able to look unobstructed at everybody's property. You never know what you're going to see in people's back 40. Things that people think are hidden from the road are easily visible from the sky. Abandoned school buses and broken down cars, hidden sheds and cabins in the woods. It's pretty hard to hide that stuff from an airplane. Like, you'll just never know what you'll see. Odd pattern in the road there. The road like widens, has a turnaround, an intersection where you can turn around and go back, I guess. Alright, so we're coming to the north end. Boy, Saturday's getting really frustrating here. Coming to the north end of the reservoir. So if I just bank away a little bit, anyways, yeah, you can see it there anyways. You can see it right in front of us there. So there is the LA aqueduct coming out of the reservoir. And it crosses the highway, and then between the highway and the reservoir, and the aqueduct itself, sorry, coming out of the reservoir, between the highway and the aqueduct is our destination. Can you guys see it yet? We're just looking for a very small dirt strip. And let me give you guys this picture again here. I don't know if you remember the picture from the very start of the video, but here's what the aerial view of our airport looks like. Aqueduct, highway, and between it is the airport. Do you guys see it yet? It's pretty small, it's pretty unobtrusive. And that's what's just so brilliant about this, is that you really have to know what you're looking for, good at following the clues, and don't rush, because you'll just go zooming right past it if you really rush. aqueduct crosses under the highway. Oh look, the highway, I didn't even notice the highway goes from 4 lanes to 2 up here. It becomes an even smaller road. But the aqueduct crosses the highway. And then between the highway and the aqueduct is our final destination. You guys see it there yet? Hopefully you guys see it there now. You can see what looked like what used to be a landing strip that's got trees growing over it. What used to be a landing strip by the looks of it, but now it's got trees growing over it and a smaller one at a diagonal. So there it is. That's our landing strip right there. But if you hadn't been here before, you would pretty much have to be on top of it to notice it there. And that's what I really like about this bush flying and the challenge of trying to find some of these places that you've never been to, that you've never seen in person, and trying to spot them and then set up a landing at just these little places. And they exist. It's not on any chart. If we go to Sky Vector again here, it's not a listed airport. We're right about here. No listed airport there. It's just somebody's private backyard strip. But because of all the satellite data, if it exists in the real world, it can exist in the sim. And then it's just a matter of finding it sometimes. Alright, let's get back into the white arc so we can get those flaps going, because we're still a little bit high here, higher than I would want to be right now, but that's okay. If we pull it to idle, we can probably burn the speed off pretty quick, especially once I start to get these flaps down. There we go. So, first notch of flaps. Really wanted to pitch down when I did that. Turn to final. Without even knowing the field elevation, it's a little bit hard to necessarily judge how high you are above the field, but it just requires some good airmanship. Alright, let's go ahead. Full landing flap there. Is. Try not to get too slow on this approach here. Now we're going to need a whole bunch of power to oppose that flap. There we go. Somewhere in the 675, I think, would probably be a good approach speed with the flaps here. Let's go with that. Seems like we're sinking a little bit too far. There we go. I think we got it. Got to trim it a little bit here, but otherwise I think we're doing good here. Yeah, right about there. That looks good. No VASIs, no nothing, no lights. Just a little strip carved out of the desert here. But I tell you guys, if you ever get a chance, do these missions, do them as multiplayer get a couple of friends together on an evening and go and even just pull off a couple legs of this at a time. Because I tell you, it was just great fun, just trying to follow each other into these little tiny strips here. You can pull off, and after you landed, and you can watch somebody else land. Not very good at landing tailwheel aircraft. There you go. You can backtrack the runway if you want, which is what we did when we were doing it, so we could go and watch each other. Because each of these airports on this mission, one thing we found out is that they have very specific spots where the mission will successfully end. Very specific defined boundaries to the airfield. And in the case of these smaller dirt strips, pretty much you have to stop on the runway for the mission to end successfully. So one thing we did was we taxied back, we kind of parked at the end of the runway and watched each other land, but because we were not on the runway itself when we reached a full stop, the mission did not end for us. We backtracked on the roll, we never stopped. The second you stop the airplane, if you're within the confines of the airport, the mission will end. So this is what we did. We basically went back here to where kind of the threshold is. There's a little bit of a taxi through the grass. There's a little bit of a dirt strip here, and then when you stop here, it doesn't recognize the mission as complete. So you can stop your aircraft here away from the runway. It doesn't recognize it as complete. Not until you go back to the runway. and stop right here on the runway itself. In the case of this airport, as soon as you reach a full stop on the runway, it recognizes that as complete. And there you go. That's the first leg of the bush trip completed. 37 minutes in the air, checked, and then you can continue through the rest of the legs in order. But I just thought I would show you guys that for a quick little stream here, a quick little video, because honestly, that was a lot of fun. Just a fun little airplane to fly. Neat little missions that they've set up. I really enjoyed the missions. They take you to some very small, obscure places, and it's a real challenge to find these particular airports. So I've really enjoyed this challenge, and I encourage you guys to give it a try. Yeah, you know, even you guys who enjoy flying airliners back and forth, just take a little bit of time to just enjoy the scenery, take some friends with you, go out and have some fun. I think you'll find that these missions are a lot of fun. So that's all I wanted to show you guys. Thank you so much for watching this evening, and I will catch you guys all very soon. Take care out there.